Amina's hands were slick with mud as she tried to cling to the wooden post by the doorway. "Please, Mama Ayabo, don't let them take me," she cried, her voice breaking through the storm. But her stepmother stood still, the lamplight flickering against her face. The rain had flattened her headscarf, but her eyes burned with something colder than the wind. "Let her go," Ayabo said to the two men behind Amina. Her tone was quiet, too quiet. "She's no daughter of this house." The men didn't hesitate. Their hands were rough, smelling of sweat and palm wine. One grabbed Amina's wrists, the other knotted a rope around her arms. She kicked, twisted, her bare feet scraping against the wet ground. The sound of her anklet, her mother's last gift, jingled once before snapping and disappearing into the mud. "Mama Ayabo, please," she screamed. "I'll work harder, I swear." Her stepmother turned away. The rain came without warning, thick, relentless, drumming on the thatched roof like an angry spirit. In the small clay hut at the edge of Orua village, Amina sat with her knees pulled to her chest, listening to the storm's fury. Every drop seemed to echo what she already knew. Something was wrong tonight. Her stepmother, Ayabo, had been whispering all evening, her voice sharp and secretive, the kind that made even the crickets stop their song. Amina's father had been gone for weeks, called to the king's outpost to mend spears for the royal guards. He was a skilled blacksmith, quiet and honest. But his absence left the house in Ayabo's hands, and Ayabo's heart was a thing Amina had never learned to trust. When the knock came, it wasn't gentle. 3 hard raps. Then another. Ayabo's voice cut through the dark. "Amina, open the door." Amina hesitated, then rose. The door groaned as she pushed it open. Outside, 2 men stood in the rain. Their faces were hidden beneath palm leaf hats, but their eyes caught the torchlight, cold, knowing. Behind them was a wagon draped in animal hide. "This is the girl," Ayabo said, stepping forward, her wrapper tight around her waist. 17. Strong. Knows how to grind millet and fetch water. Amina blinked, confused. "Mama Ayabo." "Quiet." Ayabo's tone sliced through her like a blade. "You've done nothing but bring trouble to this house. Your father feeds you while I starve. Tonight, you will repay him." One of the men handed Ayabo a small leather pouch. Coins clinked inside. Amina froze. The world seemed to narrow to the sound of rain and metal. "You're selling me?" Her voice broke. Ayabo didn't meet her eyes. "The gods punish lazy mouths. Go with them. Maybe they'll teach you obedience." Before Amina could run, rough hands seized her wrists. She struggled, but the men were stronger. Her wrapper came loose in the scuffle. Her bare feet slid in the mud. The torchlight flared against the rain, turning her tears to silver streaks. "Please, please don't," she cried, reaching toward the only home she'd ever known. But Ayabo had already turned away. The wagon creaked as the men pushed her inside. The door slammed shut, leaving her in darkness that smelled of wet wood and despair. They traveled through the night. The storm faded into a gray silence broken only by the wheels crunching over dirt. Amina sat chained beside 2 other captives, a man too weak to lift his head and a girl no older than 10, shivering in the corner. When dawn crept in, the sky was pale and hollow. The road stretched toward the capital, where the royal city of Orua shimmered faintly in the distance. Amina whispered to the little girl, "What's your name?" The child didn't answer. Her lips trembled, eyes swollen from crying. Amina leaned closer, her voice trembling but kind. "Don't be afraid. We'll be all right." She wasn't sure she believed it, but the words felt like a small light in the dark. Hours passed. The air grew hotter, the trees thinned. Around midday, they reached the city gates. Orua was unlike anything Amina had ever seen. Massive walls carved from red stone, towers shaped like drums, guards with golden spears. The sound of market bells and talking birds filled the air. The traders stopped near a courtyard where other slaves were gathered. Their skin glistened under the sun, their eyes hollow. Buyers walked among them, rich merchants, soldiers, and a few palace officials in white robes. When the man with the ledger reached Amina, he looked her over carefully. "Strong arms," he muttered. "Pretty face. She'll fetch a good price." A palace servant approached, his robe marked with the royal seal. "The Queen Mother requests new attendants for the palace kitchen. The prince returns from the northern wars, and preparations have begun." The trader nodded. "Then take her." And just like that, Amina was sold again, this time to the palace. The palace was a world of gold and shadow. Long corridors echoed with the scent of incense and roasted yam. Amina followed a tall woman who introduced herself as Nene, one of the senior servants. "You'll sleep in the lower quarters," Nene said briskly. "Work begins before the roosters call. Do not speak unless spoken to. And never, never wander near the royal gardens." Amina nodded. Her heart felt heavy, but her eyes could not stop drinking in the beauty around her. The bronze statues, the drums beating from distant courtyards, the carved doors that told the stories of ancient kings. That night, she lay awake on a mat woven from raffia. Around her, other servants whispered about the prince, how he fought like lightning, how he refused every bride chosen for him. They said his heart was too soft for war, but too proud for peace. Amina closed her eyes, clutching the memory of her father's voice. "Remember, my child, a person's worth is not measured by where they sleep, but by how they rise." Tears slipped down her cheeks silently. Somewhere beyond the palace walls, drums beat for victory. The prince had returned home, and in the darkness of the servants' quarters, a girl who had been sold by her own blood whispered to herself, "I will rise." The words were fragile, almost lost to the night. But even fragile words have power when spoken with a steady heart. The rooster's cry came before dawn, echoing through the servants' quarters like a warning. Amina stirred, her body sore from the day before. Around her, women were already awake, wrapping cloths around their heads, fetching water from the clay pots, whispering complaints about the cold. Nene clapped her hands sharply. "Up! The queen mother eats before the sun touches her window. If she waits, heads will roll." Amina rose, her feet pressing into the cool floor. She tied her faded wrapper and followed the others down the narrow corridor that smelled of smoke and palm oil. The palace kitchen was a world of fire. Huge pots simmered over logs, servants hurried with baskets of yams and plantains, and the air was thick with the hiss of boiling oil. Nene moved among them like a general. "You," she pointed to Amina, "pound the yam." Amina nodded and grabbed the pestle. It was heavy, nearly as tall as her, but she had carried worse in the village. Her arms ached, but her rhythm was steady. Thud, turn, thud. Each strike sent steam into her face, and the sweat made her wrapper cling to her skin. A servant beside her whispered, "You're new, aren't you?" Amina nodded. "Be careful. The queen mother's eyes are everywhere." Amina wanted to ask more, but a sharp voice interrupted. "You there?" It was Chief Cook Oju, a man whose belly shook when he barked. "That yam better be smooth as moonlight, girl. The queen hates lumps." "Yes, sir," Amina murmured. By sunrise, the first trays were ready: grilled fish, pounded yam, bitter leaf soup perfumed with audrey. Servants balanced the trays on their heads and hurried out to the queen mother's chamber. Amina wasn't chosen to serve. She remained behind, cleaning the soot from the pots. Her hands burned, but she didn't complain. Every task felt like a test she had to pass. When she finally stepped outside, the palace courtyard glowed gold under the morning light. Palm trees swayed gently, their shadows long and cool. She paused, breathing in the air. It smelled of roasted corn, wet dust, and something else she couldn't name. Freedom, maybe. For a moment, she imagined her father walking toward her through the gates, calling her name. But reality came quickly. She was a servant now, a girl sold for coins. Days bled into weeks. Amina learned the rhythm of palace life, the songs sung while sweeping the marble floors, the coded glances exchanged when nobles walked by, the silence required in the queen's presence. The queen mother, Isomi, was a woman carved from pride. Her skin was dark and smooth like polished stone. Her voice could fill a hall without rising. She ruled the palace with precision, and her servants trembled at the sound of her bracelets clinking. One afternoon, while carrying a basket of cassava leaves to the courtyard, Amina's eyes caught something unusual: a small boy chasing a monkey through the royal garden. The monkey darted into a tree, and the boy laughed, clapping his hands. "Come down, you thief!" he shouted, barefoot and radiant. Amina smiled in spite of herself. Then she noticed the guards standing nearby, their posture stiff. The boy wasn't just any child. Before she could move, a gentle voice behind her said, "He's stubborn, that one." Amina turned. Standing a few paces away was a man dressed in white linen, a sash of gold across his shoulder. His eyes were calm, thoughtful, the kind of eyes that seemed to see too much. He was taller than any man she'd seen, his posture straight yet unassuming. She didn't need to be told who he was. "Prince Oluma." Amina dropped to her knees immediately, bowing her head. "My lord." "Please," he said softly, "rise. I'm not the one who likes people bowing." She hesitated. No prince spoke like that. Carefully, she stood. Her heart thudded in her chest. Oluma smiled faintly, watching the boy and the monkey. "He's my nephew. I told him the monkey doesn't belong in the royal garden, but he insists it's his friend." Amina dared a small smile. Maybe the monkey thinks the same. Oluma looked at her then, really looked, and something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Amusement. "You speak freely." She bit her lip. "Forgive me, my lord. I didn't mean." "It's all right." He raised a hand gently. "Most people here only speak when they think I'll like their words. It's refreshing when someone doesn't." Amina didn't know what to say. Her fingers twisted in her wrapper. "What is your name?" he asked. "Amina, my lord." He nodded slowly. "Amina, it suits you." Then he turned, walking toward the boy as if nothing had happened. But Amina stood rooted to the ground, her pulse quick and confused. The prince had spoken to her, seen her, as though she were someone, not a shadow. Nene found her moments later, whispering urgently, "Amina, what are you doing here? The queen mother must not see you lingering near the gardens." "I was only." "Go. Now." Amina hurried back inside, clutching the basket tighter. But her thoughts refused to quiet. She could still hear his voice, gentle, curious. "Amina, it suits you." That night, as the moon rose high over Orua, Amina couldn't sleep. The palace drums beat softly in the distance. Around her, the other servants were lost in dreams, their bodies curled like tired birds. She stared at the ceiling, remembering his face, the warmth in his eyes, the calm in his tone. It frightened her how easily she remembered. But she reminded herself of what Nene had said, never wander near the royal gardens. The prince was not for someone like her. Still, when she finally drifted into sleep, her dreams carried her back to that moment. His gaze meeting hers under the gold light, the air between them alive with something unnamed. Elsewhere in the palace, the queen mother sat with her attendants, listening to the reports of the day. New servants from the western villages, one of them said. One of them, Amina, has shown unusual diligence in the kitchens. Queen Isomi's brow arched. "Amina?" "Yes, my queen. Keep an eye on her," Isomi said. "Sometimes, the ones who look the humblest carry the greatest ambition." The attendants nodded, bowing low. Outside, the wind stirred the trees. In the heart of the kingdom, two paths, one belonging to a prince, the other to a slave girl, had crossed for the first time. And though neither of them knew it yet, the gods had already begun to weave their names together. The next few weeks unfolded quietly, like silk unwinding. Amina tried to return to the rhythm of her work, but something had shifted inside her. The memory of the prince's gentle tone, his calm, unhurried way of speaking, lingered like a song she couldn't stop hearing. Yet she knew better than to dream. Princes belonged to a world of gold and titles. She belonged to silence and service. Still, fate is never content with stillness. One morning, Nene called her aside. "You're to take the food trays to the royal garden," she said, her tone cautious. "The prince is meeting the palace scribes there." Amina froze. "Me? Why not one of the others?" "Because I said so," Nene replied. But her eyes softened. "Be careful, Amina. Some paths, once you walk them, you can't turn back." Amina nodded and balanced the tray on her head. Her steps were careful as she crossed the tiled courtyard. The sun filtered through tall palm trees, scattering light across the path. Birds called from the branches like gossiping elders. In the garden, Prince Oluma sat beneath a fig tree, a scroll unrolled before him. He wore plain linen, not the usual silks of royalty. The air smelled faintly of earth and mint leaves. When Amina approached, he looked up and smiled, the kind of smile that reached the eyes. "Amina." She bowed her head slightly. "My lord." "You came again," he said, as if he'd expected her. "Do you always carry sunlight with you? Or is it the garden's doing?" Amina blinked, startled. I don't understand." He chuckled. "Good. It means you're not used to flattery." She tried not to smile, but it happened anyway. He gestured toward the tray. "Set it down here." As she knelt to place it before him, the faint scent of palm oil and smoked fish filled the air. He reached for a wooden cup, but his hand brushed hers by accident. A brief touch, barely a breath, but it sent something unfamiliar through her chest. He noticed it too. His gaze lingered, thoughtful. "You're trembling," he said softly. "I'm not," she whispered, though her pulse betrayed her. He smiled again, gently, as if to save her from her own nerves. "Do you read, Amina?" She shook her head. "No, my lord." He looked at the scroll in his hand. "Then perhaps you'll listen instead." And so he read aloud. His voice was low, melodic, telling a story of the first king of Orua, a boy chosen by the gods, who learned that kindness, not power, made a ruler great. Amina sat on the ground a few steps away, pretending to pick at the grass, though every word reached her like the wind. When he finished, there was silence, soft, full. "Do you believe stories like that?" he asked finally. She looked up at him. "I want to." He tilted his head. "Why?" "Because if they're true," she said quietly, "then maybe even someone like me can have a place in the world." Oluma's eyes softened. "Someone like you?" "A slave," she said. The word was bitter, heavy. He leaned forward slightly. "Amina, I've met warriors who are bound by pride more tightly than you are by chains. Don't let anyone tell you your worth." Her eyes stung. No one had ever spoken to her like that, without pity, without scorn. But before she could reply, a voice sliced through the garden. "My lord." It was Saad, one of the senior attendants, her tone sharp as a blade. "The Queen Mother requests your presence. She worries you spend too much time among the servants." Amina lowered her head quickly. The moment shattered like glass. Oluma rose, his jaw tightening. "Tell my mother I will come when I choose." Saad hesitated, glaring briefly at Amina before hurrying off. When they were alone again, Amina whispered, "You shouldn't anger her because of me." He turned toward her, his expression soft again. "I'm not angry because of you. I'm angry because the world thinks kindness is weakness." Then, quietly, he added, "Thank you for listening, Amina." And he walked away. By evening, the palace buzzed with whispers. Servants murmured about the prince and the new girl from the west. Saada's sharp eyes followed Amina everywhere. Nene noticed the tension and pulled her aside after dinner. "Whatever is happening between you and the prince, end it," Nene said in a low voice. "There's nothing happening," Amina insisted. Nene sighed. "It doesn't matter what's true. In this palace, rumors are stronger than truth. Watch your back." Amina wanted to argue, but the warning in Nene's tone was too real. She nodded silently. That night, she lay awake listening to the wind rustling through the trees outside. Her heart ached with confusion, fear, longing, and something like hope, all tangled together. She tried to remind herself that she was nothing more than a servant. But each time she closed her eyes, she saw his face, the kindness that seemed to reach for her across the walls built by birth and title. A few days later, a messenger summoned Amina to the outer garden again. Her hands shook as she approached, but when she saw Oluma, the tension eased. He was feeding small birds from his palm, their wings flashing blue and gold. He smiled when he noticed her. "I thought you might like some air." "My lord, if I'm seen." He gestured for silence. "Let them see." They walked in silence for a while, the soft crunch of gravel underfoot. The garden smelled of wet earth and hibiscus. "You're brave to walk here," he said finally. "I'm afraid every second," she admitted. "Then bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's walking anyway." She looked at him, eyes wide. "You speak like a priest." He laughed lightly. "My mother says I speak too much." Perhaps she's right. They reached a small pool where fish glimmered beneath the surface. Oluma crouched, tossing crumbs into the water. "When I was a child," he said, "I used to think the fish carried messages to the gods. I told them my secrets." Amina knelt beside him, watching the ripples. "And what do you tell them now?" He smiled faintly. "That I found a reason to look forward to each day." Her breath caught. But before she could reply, shouts echoed from the corridor beyond the garden. "Sought again." "My lord, the council awaits." Oluma rose reluctantly. "Duty calls." He looked down at her. "Amina, promise me you'll keep your spirit safe. This palace devours gentle souls." She nodded, though her throat was tight. "I promise." He gave a small nod and left. That night, Amina sat by the window of the servants' quarters, staring at the moon. Its light spilled across the courtyard like milk. She thought of her stepmother's betrayal, the long road to the capital, the chains she once wore. And now, this fragile, forbidden friendship blooming in the heart of a palace. The gods, she thought, have strange ways of weaving fate. But she also knew something else. The brighter a flame burns, the sooner shadows come looking for it. And somewhere in the Queen Mother's chamber, Sod whispered her suspicions. Soon, jealousy would begin its cruel dance.